The Building Freedom podcast is created by Randy Stanbury, the founder and chief inspiration officer of 4-Level Coach. Randy is a best-selling author with 25 years of real-world experience and a load of personal and business development. He will be sharing the tools, strategies, and mindset to help you overcome the most difficult roadblocks. Discover how you can transform your life and your business for greater freedom.
Hey everybody, it's Randy Stanbury with 4-Level Coach, and this is the Building Freedom Podcast. Today I'll be sharing insights and strategies directly from our Facebook group live for custom home builders. If you are a custom builder or remodeler and want to join the live conversation, head over to our Facebook group by clicking the link in the description of this podcast. Now don't worry if you're a plumber, electrician, painter, landscaper, it does not matter if you're any of the other trades. All of these insights and strategies relate directly to you and your business, I promise you. Now, let's dive right in and join the conversation that's in motion now. Welcome to the Building Freedom Podcast. It's Randy Stanbury here, and today I have an amazing special guest. I have Logan Shinholser with Contractor Growth Network. We're going to talk a lot about marketing strategy today for builders and remodelers, as well as getting into the sexier side, the video side of what we're doing today in our business. You know, if we're not leveraging video today, we're missing a big component. Logan's going to talk a bit about that. Logan, welcome, man.
Cool. I appreciate you having me on here, man. This will be exciting.
Let's dig into it. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your world, how you got started, and what are you guys all about? Your sweet spot, who you work with, stuff like that.
Sure. So I started a company called Contractor Growth Network coming up on 6 years now. So started 6 years ago. My dad was a pond and water feature contracting company up in the DC, Maryland area. And back in 2014, we were flying back from a pond conference, actually. And he looked at me on the flight, and I just graduated college, and he said, Logan, you want to do my marketing? Like, you're working in the field for me. It's obvious that's just not really your sweet spot. I got a marketing company right now. They're not really doing anything for me. And candidly, if I'm going to waste money on marketing, I might as well waste it on my own son. And I was like, oh, that's a hell of a backhanded compliment, Dad. Thanks. I was like, yeah, I know.
I'm also curious, before we go any further, I'm curious why it was obvious you didn't want to be in the field, or why it was obvious he didn't want you in the field.
So long story short, so I went to college on a springboard and platform diving scholarship. All right. Oh, cool, and from there, when I got after freshman year, my whole goal was actually to be get into the Navy. So I ended up going into the Navy after college, but that whole time that I'm in college, I was gearing up, prepping for it, stuff like that. And then essentially the idea was I was just going to work for my dad while my Navy application went through. So me being in the field, it was like realistically, like I wasn't going to do this pond thing for forever. I was really more focused on the Navy either way. So
right.
Didn't really matter where he put me. It was really more of like a temporary solution of my dad just helping me out. And at the same time, everybody in the pond world wants to be the one that like builds the waterfall because it's nice, but because my goal was just to get in shape, I was called the rock bitch, which is like a industry term that we had. And my role was to take all the rocks and the gravel and the dirt from the front yard into the backyard all day long. So that's all I did. And there's only so much of that you can do before it's just like, all right, this is kind of mundane. So then that's when he I guess said, look, you want to try the marketing thing again, while you're waiting for the Navy stuff, you do the marketing for me. We'll learn this stuff together. What do you say? So I started that.
How cool is it that it leads you to, what you end up doing for a living and creating this, amazing business out of? I mean,
So with that, what ended up happening was, so that's in like September of 14. I end up getting in about August of 15. I get the thumbs up to go into the Navy. It was the Navy SEAL program, and I'm going in as an officer. So you go to OCS, I go to that, and then I come out, I go right into BUDS. And at this point, once I'm in the Navy, I'm not doing any more of the marketing stuff for my dad. Then I go through BUDS, which is the SEAL training, and there's this special period called Hell Week, which is pretty rough. And it was so rough, I didn't make it through. I quit during it, rang the bell. And then at that point, what the Navy then does is says, all right, you quit. What do you want to do within the Navy? There's at the time of the year, and it's crazy how this all worked, but at the time of the year, they're like, there's not really many spots open, Logan, what do you want? So I apply for a couple more jobs within it. And then they essentially say, look, we got no spots open. We're going to go ahead and you're going to phase out, which is essentially like a layoff. It's like reduction in force. So I'm in the Navy for a year and a day, and that's my Navy career. Learned a lot. That's a whole different podcast, but learned a lot there. So what then ends up happening is from there, what I'm doing is I'm thinking, okay, I got to do something with my life. What do I want to do? And I knew I either wanted to start a business or I wanted to learn something that would help me, that when I did start a business, I was going to have some skill set, because I grew up with my dad being an entrepreneur, and it was just essentially beat into us in a good way of, entrepreneurship is like, if you want to make a big difference, you want to make an impact, entrepreneurship's the way to go. So what I then did, instead of starting a business, was I started inside sales up at Indeed.com in San Francisco. And while I was doing that full time, I was doing nights and weekends, all the marketing for my dad's company. So I'm doing all that nights and weekends. And what started happening was the marketing started to really work. And his friends, who were also contractors, started to reach out to see if I could do the same thing for their company. And then next thing you know, I have so many clients at with the marketing thing that I said, either I got to stick with Indeed or go all in on myself, and made the leap and said, screw it. If I'm going to bet on somebody, I'm going to bet on me. And I had about 6 months worth of savings saved up. And I remember talking to my dad about it, and he was like, you essentially got 6 months to figure it out, Logan, and we'll see. So what ended up happening was, at that point, maybe like 6 months prior to that, when I started to think about, do I want to start a company? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my mom was like, well, you do the marketing stuff for your dad. Like, that's working really well. Why don't you just do it for more people? And then people started to hit me up. So I kind of fell into it. I didn't think I was going to do the marketing thing. But next thing you know, it's now been 6 years, and here we are.
It's your thing. So are you, I know you're solely working with remodelers, builders today, correct?
It's design build. It's mostly design build companies. So ponds are still in that boat. Landscaping still in that boat, because essentially it's the way that homeowners buy is similar in those industries compared to like roofing, or like something that's like a very fast, like, we got an emergency, get out here right now.
Yeah. Like that's more service side. Love it. And so is this something that, right from day one that you jump into, or did you start dabbling in a bunch of other industries, or was it like always this?
It was always this, because the beauty of niching down is you get really freaking good at a few things, right? It's the generalist versus the heart surgeon, right? The heart surgeon still knows if you got a stuffed up nose, there's a handful of things it could be, and they can help with that. But if you got something wrong with your heart, they know everything about the heart, inside and out. And that's essentially what we've done, is that, that if you really took like the marketing methodology that we do, could this work for real estate agents? 100%, right? Because it's really just a fundamental, you're putting your best foot forward. This is how you do the marketing. But realistically, we just wanted to stay in this space because, first off, it's near and dear to my heart. I grew up in this world. I see what it was like. And then now being more in this world, I really see, holy shit, this is a pretty underserved market that like can use a lot of help in this specific department. Plus, again, just by niching down, and we only offer 4 services. We've got marketing strategy, websites, SEO, and video. We used to do the paid ad side. We used to try direct mail. We used to do it, all these other things. And essentially what we've done is we've stripped out all the things that we've realized like we're not as good at and we're not as effective at, and really just gone tunnel vision on, we do these 4 things. It's our core 4, and that's it. So we've really honed in on it because it allows us to then like get really deep into what works and what doesn't.
So let's talk about that, core number 1, the strategy piece. What's working really well, and strategy is going to vary amongst different niches within this industry. And I'm a big fan as well of niching down. I see too many remodelers trying to do everything. Right. And when you're trying to do everything, you cannot be the expert at it all. In fact, we get more inefficient at trying
Yeah.
to be everything. We're not as effective. Our marketing cannot be as effective. And, therefore, the more niche down we can be in our own industry, the better. So maybe to get into a little bit of strategy piece, how do you get started and what's your deal?
Yeah. So when it comes to strategy, the first place that we always want to start is the customer, right? Because it's so much easier to know what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, what we should be saying, what are things that we should be showing relating to our ideal client. And I remember when I first started all the marketing stuff, I was told that, and it was like, well, where do your clients shop? And this is like my dad's, homeowners that he works with. And I'm like, I guess Costco. And like, cool, write that down. I had no idea what that meant. Like, to me, was that, do we now go have a booth at Costco? Do we just pass out memberships? What does that mean? But realistically, what it really comes down to is, like, when we put together these marketing strategies that we do, I spend the most amount of time on, there's like a slide that's just focused on the customer. And it's really identifying, let's say, first off, location wise, right? Where are the hot spots that you want to be in? So if you're here in Charlotte, well, most everybody says, I want to be all around Charlotte. If it's anybody in Charlotte, I want to be the person. But realistically, it's much easier to corner a section of the market, or like geographic location, and get really known there. And then you can start to spread out a little bit more. But most people want to, essentially spread the love, the marketing resources, the dollars really wide. So we first want to identify, where do we want to be? Because essentially, if we can really just say, hey, these are the neighborhoods we're already working in and we're known, it's much easier to find. Let's say, if we're talking about on the remodeling side, if somebody in this neighborhood is getting their basement finished, the likelihood that the rest of the neighborhood, who also had the same company build their home, also has an unfinished basement, is very high. So we want to establish ourselves as the neighborhood contractor. So location is big. You want age and kind of family makeup to be big, because at the end of the day, if you think about like what Disney World does and how they market, I can go to Disney World by myself if I want, but realistically, they know it's mostly families going. So if you look at any of Disney World's messaging or marketing, it's all family focused. Okay, so there's a piece of that. And one of the biggest, I would say, cheat codes or hacks or whatever you want to call it, but it's really not, is you want whatever makes you special. You want all your prospects in your area to know that that's what it looks like to work with you. And the way that we like to do it is we look at your reviews that you get on Google, because what better way to figure out what you're really good at than to just see what your customers who already know, like, and trust you say about you. And from there, you will typically find, and there's usually 3 trends. It's always really good customer service, really good just overall professionalism, and then the quality of work is awesome. So those are your big 3, customer service, professionalism, and the actual quality of work. Well, now you know what your prospects really like. So what they don't like is they don't like motivational quotes, posted on your social media. They want to see your work. They want to see you be professional, or they want to see customer service. So that's where we start with everything: is who is the ideal client? Where are they? How old are they? What are the services we're going to provide? And then on top of that, we now infuse in, what do they actually want out of you as a business? And the easiest place to look are those reviews. So that's where we start with everything, is knowing your ideal client. Does that all make sense?
Oh, 100%, man. We use a tool called Understanding Your Avatar. It's really about getting in the heads of the client. You're going deeper with it, but there's a structure to doing that. What's jumping out at me is the simplicity of it all, right? It's really so simplistic, but I think far too often we're so in the weeds of our own business that we can't get simplistic without, getting outsourced and getting to an expert like yourself on the marketing. Because, hey, if we're an entrepreneur running our business, we are not experts in marketing. So why do we get into the weeds of the shit that we shouldn't be in the weeds of? Right. And so,
yeah,
and when, you can, basically take those components and make it so simplistic and easy enough to understand and move forward with, now we can actually see the journey, how this journey is going to actually become possible, as opposed to us swimming in our shit, not getting anywhere. Yeah,
I would say one of the easiest things, or the easiest ways for marketing to work, is if you run a good company. So Randy, if you had to become the CMO of one of these 2 companies, which one would you choose? Enron or Apple?
Well, that's pretty easy. I'd choose Apple.
Right. But most people don't realize that from an outside perspective, it looks like they're running their company as an Enron. Maybe not so scammy, but your reviews are very telling of what kind of business you run. So when somebody comes to us, and we've dealt with this in the past where we're doing, let's say, SEO for somebody, and they're like, whoa, I'm getting a lot of traffic, but it's not turning into leads. Well, we then say, well, look, remember we talked about this. You're at a 3.9 star average. Would you hire you? And the answer is no. And it's like, if you wouldn't hire you, and us as your marketing company, we know what it looks like to work with you, wouldn't hire you based off of this, how can we ask a prospect to hire us? So we really need to understand that at the end of all of this, it's really, if you're doing great stuff offline, meaning if you're working in somebody's home and they love you, and you're doing all these little intangible things, like when you show up, your crew is shaking the hands of the homeowner, or when you're meeting with somebody, your truck is wrapped and you're not getting out of the truck and flicking a cigarette butt out and stuff like that. Well, if you're doing things like that, which are, different than other people in your area, well, now you want to look like that in your branding, both online and offline, because no matter how much we preach, you should never judge a book by its cover. Everybody does it. Every single person does it. So if you're not putting your best foot forward from a marketing and branding perspective, you're essentially fighting yourself out of a hole to try to get that client back on board to trust you.
Yeah. So it's all client experience, man.
And that's what it is. So when it comes down to the client experience, let's talk about that for a second. So there's really, in my opinion, there's three different types of contracting companies. You got low price point, average price point, high price point contractor. Low price point, bad experience, bad product, bad service. Essentially, it's not good for the homeowner, not good for the customer. It's bad for everybody. And that's typically who gives the contracting world, unfortunately, a bad name, right? Now you got your average and your high end, and this is harder to differentiate, because typically what happens is the high end or the high price point contracting company or builder is going to have a 5 out of 5 product or service, while the average is going to have a 4 out of 5 product or service. Okay. Now it's not that different, but the big difference here, and realistically for most homeowners and most people buying something because they're a little bit cost conscious, a 4 out of 5 is still pretty good. It's good enough for them. And they're like, to save the money, I'm okay with that. The big difference here comes into the experience. A high price point, they're going to give you a 5 out of 5, while an average price point is going to give you a 3 out of 5. And the way that I really thought about this and learned this was, I had a friend here in Charlotte. She does really well, very successful business. And she would be like, everybody listening right now, like ideal demographic. Well, she was asking me, she said, Logan, do you know any contractors around the area here in Charlotte that could do a bathroom? She said, because the company I'm working with right now in my office, I'm just not really feeling the love. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, like they're doing a decent job with the actual work. She's like, but I feel like I'm having to like manage the project myself. Like I'm the one calling them up. I'm the one asking them this stuff. And like, she's like, it's not like they're not responding by any means. She's like, but I just feel like I have to be the one doing everything. And that's when I really realized, like, that is the difference between the Walt Disneys of the world versus the Six Flags. They're both amusement parks. They both have rides, characters, food. But when you go to Walt Disney and you just step on the grounds there, it's magical. When you go to Six Flags, you're like, all right, we're here for 8 hours and that's about it. So that is the difference when it comes to being in the home. Then the next piece there is, if you're already going above and beyond, and this is really how it all started with my dad's company, which was, Logan, we're doing all those things. When we leave the house, we're raking the grass, we're pressure washing the driveway, we're doing all that stuff. Well, now you need to make sure that your brand and your marketing properly reflects all of that, because again, seeing is believing. And if you're going above and beyond, the most frustrating thing, and I can say this as a business owner myself, the most frustrating thing is when you do all this extra stuff and you get absolutely no credit for it, and people just assume that you are operating in the same way as everybody else who's not doing that because of how you look with your whole brand.
Yeah, I love that your brand has to align with who you are and how you show up. And really, to me, it's about how you show up. I mean, at the end of the day, everything you're talking about on the marketing side, we have to have on our sales side. So when we're showing up, if we've done everything on the marketing side to show ourselves as that, that 5-star rated top end. Now, how we show up, if we don't show up in our sales process, our sales system, and we've been really working with guys in the, a do it with you model to help guys get their sales system in place so they can charge that highest price point and get the right leverage from their business. But it comes, like you said, from the branding side and then that experience that has to tie it all together. Now, if you don't show up from a sales perspective in a proper sales system, deploying the right things along the way, to me, this is where you lose the marketing, power that you had, because you're now the average. Mm-hmm. You're now showing up the same as the average guy, but you have the ability to show up much different. And if you did, you charge higher price point and your whole business would change.
It's different. I mean, it's so funny that like, it really is just taking the fundamentals of running a good business, because we all want communication. It's fun. We always say like, oh, we do things differently than everybody else. But if you look online, it may not say the same story. Like you may say, I'm really customer focused, but then when I go, well, what's up with your reviews? You're like, well, those people are problems. And I'm like, so you're customer focused when the wind's at your back and it's somebody who's really easy, but God forbid it's somebody who's tough. What happens to the customer centric idea then? So it's just doing the right things. And essentially, if your marketing and your branding is on point, it should really just shine or have like a window into really what it looks like to work with your company. Because if you are a higher price or you're trying to have, everybody see you in a different light, you want to make sure that everything is set up in place so it's super easy that when they look at you, they go, you know what, that's the company for me. Or they go, you know what, that's just not the right fit for me because they're too high priced. I would rather go with somebody else. And that's okay too.
There you go.
That's okay too.
But at least they can make an informed decision at that point, whether or not that's your customer or it's not.
It's like starting to date somebody at first, right? If you go on 3 dates with somebody and they go, look, Randy, I appreciate it, man, but like, this is just not, I just don't see this working out. I don't see us getting married. At least they gave it a shot at 3 dates compared to you showing up and they're like, nope, not even going to talk to you. Right. Done. Like, yeah, you at least want to give it a few times. And that's the same thing here, where if they go through everything and you have good branding and you have a good systematic sales process that they feel the love and they still go, Randy, I appreciate it, man, but like, you're just a little bit out of our budget right now. Like, we're going to hold off, or we're going to go with somebody that is a little more affordable. Like, and that's okay, right? There's more fish out there that we want to go after, but realistically, the best thing you can do is make sure that they really know. It's like when you're applying for a job, you have a resume. Your website in your business is your resume. It should highlight what makes you great, why you who you want to work with, who you're best with, projects that you've done, pricing, all that stuff. That is meant to be your resume. And the last thing that you want is to go into an estimate or a sales call or whatever and have people not really know anything about your company. And what's even worse is not know how your company is different than everybody else that you're also competing against.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. And I'll throw back in when the marketing is working and that branding is working in sync with how you operate. Now we jump into the sales system. And here's what I believe, Logan, so much, and I know you'll resonate with this. If you are showing up and you don't convey the message of what you do, and you don't highlight these things along the way in your sales process, your sales system, then whatever is not said doesn't exist. And so therefore, it's not real, it doesn't exist, and you're the same as everyone else that's not talking about it too. And this is where we change the whole game and we create the system that matches and mimics that marketing system, the brand and how you show up. This is how you close more deals at higher price points, period, end of story. And that changes your business forever. Don't talk about it, it doesn't exist in the client's mind.
It's so, I mean, like we used to talk about this a lot more. We don't do it as much anymore because it was like a bit of a disconnect until people experienced it. But like when you go from a generic website to one that is high-end professional, it's got your process laid out, it shows projects that you've done, it's got your testimonials, all that stuff. It's an identity shift for
video.
you. Oh yeah, all of it. I mean, it has all of it together. It is an identity shift. And now you coincidentally, and I'm doing it in air quotes, now operate differently. Because when, let's just say on the process side, if you have a page that lays out, here's our 12-step process of, from your first call to when you go to closing on this new home that we just built, here's how it all works. Well, now you have to now do it because you put it online, it's out there, you now got to follow it, and you're not going to put up some, busted process that sucks. You're going to put up the one that you want to do and you should be doing. And now essentially what ends up happening is you now align with it, you start to do it, and then now people get that much better of an experience. And it was all because you simply said, this is how we work and this is how we operate. And it sheds this whole new level of professionalism on the actual contractor themselves. And next thing you know, like, everything starts to work out. You're getting better reviews, you're getting more referrals, because at the end of the day, like, it's not just the internet that should be working for you. You should still be getting, 60-70% of your work from referrals and past customers coming back, unless you're a home builder, which is probably a little bit different, but you should still be getting referrals from all of that. So even as an online digital marketing guy, I'm still a huge proponent of you still should be getting majority of your work from referrals, because if you're not, then that probably means that you're not doing as good of a job, in people's homes, because they're not shouting about how great you are from the rooftops.
Yeah, raving fans.
Yep.
This whole thing though about being that digital marketer that still is believing in the referral process. The only even if you get a referral, they're still checking you out online, right?
Great.
Your everything that you do for them is still extremely important and valuable in them making their decision.
Yes. So the way that this works, let's just take it from like a funnel perspective. So think about all your ideal clients, wherever you're listening right now. Think about who your ideal prospect is. And if you can't think of who that would be, take your favorite client you've ever had. Now add 10 years and subtract 10 years, and that's your age bracket. Take however much money they spent with you, add 50%, subtract 50% of whatever that is, and that's your like ideal like project size. So if we just did somebody who's 50 buying a $500,000 home, 50% up and down is 250 to 750. That may be a little bit much of a range, but you get the gist of it. That's who your ideal client is. Now, out of everybody who is similar in that demographic, you're going to have 3 buckets of people in the buying journey. The first bucket is the people that are closest to buying, and that is about 3% of your market, which means that if you have 1,000 of your ideal clients out there, there's about 30 right now that are ready to hire a company. That's it. Everybody goes after that 3%, because they're the ones with the credit cards out. They're the ones more likely to move forward this very second. Everybody fights over it. And what ends up happening here is, unless you're able to really do a really good job of differentiating yourself, it's a race to the bottom. This is what Home Advisor and Angie's List and all them have been built on, which is simply, we're going to put a bunch of contractors together. It's very hard for them to differentiate. This is the spot that everybody goes after, but realistically, this should just be one piece of the puzzle. That's 3% ready to buy right now. Then you've got about 7% of the market. These are people that have already indicated, you know what, I want to hire a company for a service that you provide, but I'm in my information gathering stage. I'm doing my research. So I'm learning, let's take on the home side, what size do I need? How many beds, how many baths, what square footage, what features? Do I want a home that is completely done? Or do I want to buy one that's a fixer-upper because it's cheaper? Or do I want to just, do a custom built home? So now you've got 7% of the market that is focusing on the education side. And here's the thing. Somebody's going to educate your clientele and your prospects. It's either going to be you or it's going to be Home Advisor. So you take your pick on who you want to be the company that's saying what projects really cost. And I can tell you, I've never had a contractor say, "Oh, I'd rather have Home Advisor do it," because we all know they're going to say, "Oh, the average kitchen remodel costs 25 grand. When in reality, maybe just a cosmetic update, but that's just material right there, and that's it. So that's your 7%. And your last bucket is the 90%. The 90%, that's where most everybody is. And this is where brands are made. In this 90% group, now you have people that are anywhere as close to, I'm starting to think about maybe we need a new home, or maybe we want to remodel our kitchen, but I haven't really started to do the research yet. I'm just kind of identifying that maybe there's a problem, and all the way up to as early on as, I'm never going to buy a new home. I'm in my forever home. I'm never going to move. And that's that. And the thing here is you actually need to have a strategy and approach for the 3%, the 7%, and the 90%. You need to be set up so if somebody's ready to buy right now, you can get found. If somebody's in their information gathering stage, again, your company is able to be found. And the last piece is the 90%. And most people want to save money and say, I don't want to go after the 90%. They're too early on. I just want people ready to go right now. But that's your branding. And when you have your branding on point, it makes it much easier for people to trust. And when I say people, I mean people and Google, to trust that in your 7%, you are an expert in this space. And on top of that, on that 3%, when they're ready to move forward with somebody, they already know you. They like you, they trust you because they've been seeing, your marketing all over the place. Now you're the obvious choice in their head of which company to go with. And the best analogy I can give you on this is I was listening to a podcast, and the guy was interviewing the owner of one of the largest law firms in Atlanta, like over 200 employees, spending a lot of money on marketing. And he said, what have the large law firms figured out that the small law firms haven't figured out? And the guy said, the large law firms, we know that we need to become a household name before the client gets in that car accident. He said, what the small law firms do is they wait for the car accident to happen. They chase the ambulance and try to win the case that way. He said, when somebody's at this point in life and it's a tough spot to be in, we don't want to be the company just gunning after them immediately. We want them to already know us. They like us. They trust us. So now, in that very unfortunate time in their life, we are the obvious choice because they've seen our billboards, they've seen our ads, they've seen us on Google, stuff like that. So the contracting space, the home building space is no different, but we all want to think that we are special and we are different, and we shouldn't market the way that we buy. But realistically, if you think about how, you probably bought your truck. Yeah. I mean, I've never bought a Ford F-150, but I can't tell you how many ads and commercials I've seen for the F-150. And it's also like the best-selling vehicle of North America for the past, 15 years. And I've probably seen commercials for it, and I'm 31, for now 31 years. So the big companies have figured out you got to have a different, you got to have strategy and tactics in each bucket of people. And when you do it holistically and it plays together, it makes that 3% so much easier, which makes the sales happen so much easier.
Well, there is a reason they became the biggest.
That's exactly it.
I mean, let's just get that one out there on the table. Ones that don't become the biggest are constantly doing what they do, which is chasing that 3% and maybe hitting the 7 on occasion, but they're really not, right? And so correct. I love that. That is how we grow, and it's how we create a real scalable business that we can take to the next level because we have this in place. I always say, we can make a living without marketing, but we're not going to make a fortune.
Yeah, that's actually really good. And because everybody has marketing, whether they know it or not. When you start your business, your only marketing is friends and family that know you. Well, you're going to cap out. At some point, you're going to hit a max of how many friends and how many family that you know. And at some point, you're going to need the other marketing vehicles and channels to help progress you. And kind of going back to what you said of like, if I only go off referrals and word of mouth, that's fine. But if I said, hey, who do you recommend for a dentist? And you say, go to this person, I'm still going to look up online. I still want to see, do they have a professional website, or does it look like they built it themselves in Microsoft Paint? Because if they're not willing to invest in a professional company to make them look good online, what are they going to do in my mouth?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. The whole, the building a brand, building a company, building that reputation, the thing of not being able to make a fortune but making a living. We hear this all the time when we first meet a new client of ours, and we're doing our assessment as we do with everyone, and we're going through their business deep dive, and we often hear how they brag almost about the fact that they only work from word of mouth. Right now, and that is fabulous because, hey, you've obviously done something right if you built a business where word of mouth is continuing to drive, your business. However, the truth of the matter is, and why word of mouth often works. Now, in a time, today the market shifted a little bit, things are a little tighter. We don't have the opportunities we used to have, even just several months ago. We've got to close more deals at higher price points if we're going to get anywhere. So this whole shift also has people scrambling a little bit to wish they had planted the marketing seed about 4 or 5 years ago, or at least 2 or 3, or at least 1. The oak tree, the best time was 100 years ago, second best time is now. So let's make sure we're planting the marketing seed so that we can build that brand and build that business. I think if we don't, yes, we can stay and make a good living. But the truth of the matter is if we get maxed out and we hit a ceiling of our own capacity, that's through word of mouth. That's fine. But what happens if you wanted to grow the business beyond that level of capacity and word of mouth just isn't doing it? You will hit a ceiling and you will never get past the ceiling. And so the ceiling needs to be busted through if you have a vision. Now, most don't have a vision, so what we're doing today works because we don't have a direction, we don't have the vision. When you get a vision and you know where you want to go, we now know what the strategy is to get there, and it includes a systemized approach of marketing and sales to close deals at higher price points, to be able to have the right profitability, to leverage that and grow our teams strategically with the right systems in place that increases client experience, which is everything you talked about, to improve brand and how we show up, because these two sync together. And now we have a machine that we've created. I think everyone wants the business machine, the machine that, spits out. And I always think of marketing as, I want a vending machine and not a slot machine, right? Vending machine, I can get what I need and want out of it. Slot machine is a hope and a prayer. Right. So we want to create the machine that actually works for us because it's been very strategically put together, which is what you've been talking about from the moment we started this thing. Right.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, and you just want it where it's never going to move as fast as you want, especially in the home building space. You got to think about how long, I grew up in a house, my parents built it themselves. It was a custom house. And I remember talking to them about it and just said, what was the process? Because this was 94, 95 is when they built it. So this is all early days of internet, not really a thing. And they were like, yeah, we just honestly, we spent 5 years going to open houses just to hopefully see a house that we liked. And we kind of realized that if we were going to spend this money on a house, nothing out there is what we wanted. They said they had some really thick book that was an ideas book of all the different things that you could have. And and essentially the internet
today.
Yeah. Now it's Pinterest that has all that. Or with your projects, instead of having a model house, well, now you have a video on YouTube that you can walk through that shows this. So all the stuff that I'm talking about, the yellow pages used to be huge. Well, now the yellow pages is different, and now that's more on Google showing up at the top when somebody searches for remodeling or home building 100%. Company near me. So it's
then your reviews, even if you show up at the top, if your reviews suck, then you're likely falling off the table. So you can pay for that ranking, but it's going to fall apart. So there is really a system that has to come together here.
100%. So it all plays together. It's very, again, we've tried all the different things. We've tried all these other tactics. And when it came down to it, we kind of realized that the stuff that we're good at and that we know to be true are essentially our goal is to have a window into what it looks like to work with your company, which is the website that acts as the resume, that talks about why you do what you do. It's the blogs, which really help out on the SEO side. That's all the education stuff. And then finally, you have the new sexy thing, which is video. And when I say new, it's not that new, but in the contracting world,
I think people are realizing what's new is realizing the power of it today. I think is what's kind of everyone's getting, that video is critical now. And so let's wrap up with video. I know that's your fourth of your four, or your core four, right?
Yeah.
And so let's if you can wrap up on that.
Yeah.
Lead us down the video path and why it's it's literally just a crucial piece today.
So if you don't believe that video is that important, last year, 82% of all internet traffic was video consumption. So essentially, if you're not doing video, you're now fighting for the 18% of what internet traffic is. Now, granted, that's
those numbers,
82. Now, that's also like Netflix and stuff like that, but that shows how used to video we are now becoming as a society. And on top of that, if you're thinking, well, that's Netflix, how does that work for me? HGTV has an entire company around showing construction transformation projects. And if you think about what HGTV does, and they do a really good job of this, is it's not a 48-minute segment of a time lapse of a home being built. They are interviewing the couple who's getting the house built, and they're talking about, well, why do you need this, and what's important to you, and what's your budget, and all this stuff. So essentially, it's out there. And your ideal clients, they're watching this sort of stuff because they want to get ideas for themselves. So your clients, as long as you're working with high-end people that have a TV, they're watching this, they're on Instagram, they're on Pinterest, they're seeing all this stuff. So when it comes to the video, we have 6 videos that every contracting company or home building company absolutely needs. The very first one, these are your project walkthroughs. All right, project walkthrough, long story short, you take that 48-minute HGTV segment, you whittle it down to 3 to 5 minutes. You're not spending 3 to 5 minutes just saying, oh, check out how cool this door, we did a farmhouse door, and this is like, it's not just about you, it's about who can use that home. So if it's a custom home that you built for somebody else, now you're saying this was their vision, this is how it all worked, this is what was important to them, this is how we then do it, and now this is how they get to use this home together as a family. Or if it's a spec home, it's let me walk you through who this could be a good fit for. So essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to sell the destination, which is a family can grow together and make memories and have these cool experiences hosting people in this home that you built. You're not just selling the square footage of a house. So that's the first one. That's your project walkthrough. The next one is, flip it a little bit, your customer testimonial video. Customer testimonial video, same thing as a project walkthrough, but now instead of Randy explaining it, now it's Randy's favorite customer saying, hey, when I first reached out to Randy, the problem was we had this kitchen and it was small. Like we have Thanksgiving here at our house every year. And realistically, I needed to open it up and have some space. So what I did was I hopped on Google, I found Randy's company, Randy's Remodeling, awesome company, saw great reviews, met with Randy. I loved every aspect of it. They came in, and in the course of 8 weeks, they blew everything out, updated the kitchen, reconfigured it, and now I cannot wait to really have Thanksgiving at my house. And if I didn't do this, we'd probably still be fighting over who has to sit at the kids' table in the other room at the next Thanksgiving. So essentially,
tell me, how much more impactful, and I've been saying this forever, forever, last handful of years, but how much more impactful is a video testimonial to a written testimonial?
A lot.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
like significant.
Yeah, and they had that study they did a long time ago, and it's kind of like the numbers are weird, but it's like if you think about like how a message is perceived, it's like 7% of the message is the actual words, 38 is the actual like tonality and how you say it, and 55% is the actual body language. Well, a written testimonial is great because you get 7% of a message, which is better than 0% of a message. But
bingo,
now you have a video, it's 100% of a message. So you have the whole thing right there. And what's beautiful about video testimonials is, let's say Randy did this amazing kitchen for somebody that's dealing with this Thanksgiving problem. Well, now you're talking to a different prospect that says, Randy, this all sounds great, man. And, I'm having Christmas at my house this year, but I want to get a few more quotes. You can now shoot them a message and say, hey, check out this video. I had Norma up the road from you actually had the same problem, but instead of Christmas, it was Thanksgiving. Watch this. And now that prospect is putting herself in Norma's shoes and going, I'm in the same boat. This person used Randy. Maybe I should use Randy too. So it's really good from a nurture perspective as well. So
clients sell you a whole lot better than you can.
Oh my God. I mean, that's why reviews are so important, because you can say all day long how great 4Level is. And 4Level is the best thing ever. But if you have clients go, look, I've worked with Randy and this is what's happened to my business, that's going to sell it, not Randy, saying this over and over and over. So those are the first two videos. The next one that we're going to walk through is going to be the Our Unique Story. This is the one that's really the brand story. This is the heart of it all. And the best way to explain this is you talk about your why for your business. You talk about the why of why, like what clients really want, in their home, and you connect them together. So the idea could be that, you have, as a home builder, you grew up in a house. You remember how many memories you made with your family. You loved it. It was awesome. And now as a home builder, you're working with, let's say, first-time home buyers. And for them, it's so important because when they're a first-time home buyer, they're probably going to start their own family in this home as well. So now what you're doing is you're connecting the two and saying, I grew up in the home that I loved it. It was so amazing. We had so many people over. It was really cool. And now you are trying to start your own family. When I build your house, I'm going to make sure that it's set up in a way that you feel comfortable that nothing is going to break, or it's, as limited as possible. And when we're building let's say the living room, I want to make it a spacious place that you and your growing family, when you invite, the rest of your, in-laws and everybody over, there's a space for everybody to hang. So now you're connecting your why with their why. And when those come together, that's when they really believe in what you believe. And that's when you're going to end up being the best fit for them. So that's your brand story video.
I like that. Connecting your why with their why. It's great, man.
It makes it so much. It's like, you like simplicity. Apple wants to give you the simplest thing. So what do? When you get a new iPhone, you scan one iPhone to the other one and it sets it up automatically. So they do a great job and makes it easy. So that's video number 3. The fourth video is going to be the Meet the Team video. So, having a good brand, good everything, it's going to help a lot when it comes to hiring. And that's the one thing we haven't even talked about on the marketing side. Nobody wants to go work for a loser company. Okay. Nobody, maybe people that are not great employees, but A players want to go work for A player companies. So from a marketing and branding perspective, if I'm applying to a role of yours and I look and I can't see anything on social, you have bad reviews, the website looks like crap, I don't want to apply, because how likely is it that you're going to have consistent work for me? All right. So from a marketing perspective, that's a whole other topic. But from a video perspective, Meet the Team videos are huge, right? You have those on the About Us page or the team page on the website, and it's really going to do two things. One, for new employees that are wanting to apply, it shows them that you actually have a vested interest in your team. Okay. It's so funny that most people think of like the people that they hire, most contractors think of the people that they hire as, well, they're going to be here. Hopefully they kill it for a year, 2 years before they move on. But like the clients that we work with, we have people that they've had project managers that have been there for 25 years now. And it's like incredible. Well, what better way to show that than to reinvest into them, have them shoot this Meet the Team video. And it's simply them saying, hey, I'm Logan. I've been here now for 25 years. I got to say my favorite aspect of the job is working with the homeowners. My favorite, memory was actually 2 years ago when we repainted this person's dining room right before they had a 4th of July party. And they were so, and they're just saying how great it is. So that's fantastic from an employee hiring standpoint. But the other side is your clients, especially if you're on the remodeling side, they are spending a lot of money to invite strangers into their home where their kids live, right? And we're in this day and age that, there's a lot of crap out there that we don't want in our homes. And now you're inviting all these strangers in. What better way to feel more comfortable than to already see who's coming to your home? So we have, like with our clients that we do this with, they will send out, let's say if it's a project manager, they will send out, hey, this is Randy. This is going to be your project manager. And it's a 1-minute video of Randy saying, this is who I am, why I do what you do. So now when you show up, I'm like, Randy, what's up, man? Saw your video. That was great. And then Randy gets to add that to his email signature. So anytime he's talking to somebody, and it's easy.
Yeah,
so
great.
Meet the team. That's video number 4. Then the last 2, these are a little bit more
There's
focused.
so much on that one. You could go so much deeper on Meet the Team, guys. Like hearing this totally surface level, there's so much more to that conversation, but we'll rip through the next 2. Number 5.
Number 5, this is going to be our proven process.
Yeah.
Randy, if you're about to work with a company, do you want them to have a proven process to get you to where you want to be?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, you do. And like what you talked about earlier, if it's not out in front, then people are just going to assume it doesn't exist. And in the absence of expectations, people will create their own. And there's nothing more frustrating than starting your own company and then having the client tell you what to do and how you should do it. Yep. So you got to go first. You got to say, look, if you want this thing to crush it, you want us to get in there, get you the best kitchen or the best home or whatever it is, this is our 12-step process from the time that you contact us on our website all the way through. This is what our follow-up process looks like. So when you're done with your home, we're going to call you, 3 months after you move in, a year after you move in, and 3 years after you move in, just to make sure that everything is good to go. So that's what your process video is going to do, is it shows you have your stuff together. You are a professional, and you're now showing your communication and your transparency before they ever contact you, because you have a video that walks through every aspect of it together. So proven process, it's like a 5 or 6 minute video. It just lays out step by step what it looks like to work together. And that's, everybody talks about we have great communication. And it's like, well, then what better way to start off we have great communication relationship with the client than by you laying everything out up front in a clear and concise way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, man. This is everything you're talking about is what we have built into our sales system, because this is, it literally point to point to point. All of this stuff, if we're not talking about it, if this isn't out in front, it does not exist in your client's mind. Therefore, you're the same as everyone else. This is critical, guys. And this proven process, walking through this, and to me, at various points, let's have them understand why that's important to them, right? Here, right? You're on that one. You're going, yep, absolutely.
I love that you said that, because I wasn't going to say anything, just to keep it concise, but each step should be, hey,
why is this important to you?
This is step 1, is to fill out a contact form on our website so that we can, and then it's the benefit to the client, so that we can make sure that we get in contact with you and everything's in our system. So we're starting off the process together, totally organized. Step 2. Yes.
And we hit our onboarding process. And guys, if you don't have an onboarding process, you need one. We'll go through the onboarding process. Why is that important to you? Because this is what we can do to remove and mitigate all the issues that everyone else will have if they don't do this properly. That's, and so this is extremely important. Let's hit number 6 and wrap this thing up, man.
Last one, easiest one to do, FAQ videos, right? You're a remodeling contractor. You've got 5 different services you do. You probably get asked the same 5 questions for kitchens. What's it cost? How long does it take? What's the process look like? What do you need for me to do? And maybe, I don't know, just a rogue one that's like, what are the top trends that are happening right now? But long story short, everybody wants to be the expert. They want to be seen as the expert, but they're not willing to hop on camera and educate their people around them. So somebody's going to do it. It's HGTV saying, you see this beautiful 5,000 square foot, 4-bed, 5-bath house. It's going for $250,000. They're the ones educating your clientele on what stuff costs. That should really be you. So you've got your 6 videos, your project walkthrough, client testimonial, your our unique story, meet the teams, our proven process, and finally you wrap it up with your FAQ. Each of those has a place on your website and on social media to make sure that's being leveraged, because the last thing that you want to do is go through all this energy and effort to have all these beautiful videos created, and then you put them in your back pocket to never see the light of day. So they need to be out there, they need to be front and center, and they need to be obvious that this is what it really looks like to work with your company. So those are your 6, they work very much within the funnel.
100%. Love it. And I think, having them in our social media, on our website, obviously critical has to be, again, if you want to be what we're talking about, this whole conversation, this whole podcast has been wrapped around client experience, connecting with brand. Brand is now professional. You said, what are those three things you said that has to be? One is professional. The first one was? It's
usually great customer service or communication, great work itself, and then just overall professional. It's kind of like the all-encompassing one, but at the end of the day, to me, that's what it is.
This ties all that in.
That's what it is.
So it's answering, and we talk about, if you can answer all the questions that are going on in the head, or not all even the questions, the fears, the concerns, that the avatar has, which is understanding your avatar. If you can understand those and you can answer them before you show up, you win.
100%.
I'd say that's a good place to wrap. How do they contact you if someone wants to reach out to you?
So if you want to learn more about us, we got podcasts, all this stuff, but contractorgrowthnetwork.com. That's our website. We've got, blogs up there. It'll give you access to our, resources we've got. It's awesome. So contractorgrowthnetwork.com.
Fabulous. Logan, thanks for being on here, man. We could go on and went a lot deeper into every single one of those. I wish we had the time. We'll have to do it again.
Awesome. Randy, appreciate it, man.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's podcast and would like to learn more about how to get off the hamster wheel of your business, visit us at 4levelcoach.com/learn more. You can access tools that will help you enjoy more time, money, and freedom in your own business. You can also book a strategy session with our owner and entrepreneur, Randy Stanbury. Thanks for listening.